On August 20th, 2013, Antoinette Tuff was standing in the office of the elementary school where she worked with a loaded AK-47 automatic assault rifle pointed at her head. She could never have imagined what was in store for her that day. Yet, at the same time, she felt as if she'd been preparing for it all her life.
The tragic shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in December 2012 shocked and horrified the country. Then less than a year later, a similar scene started to unfold when a gunman armed with an AK-47 assault rifle and 500 rounds of ammunition walked into McNair Elementary School in Georgia. But in the end, he laid down his weapon and surrendered to police, all because of one woman's courage. Her name is Antoinette Tuff, the school bookkeeper. In her book, Prepared for a Purpose, Antoinette talks about her terrifying encounter and how she believes God had been preparing her for that moment her entire life.
Please welcome to the 700 Club the lady who saved an Atlanta school under siege, Antoinette Tuff. It's great to have you
Thank
here.
you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
I found your book so fascinating. Talk a little bit about the story of exactly what happened that day at the school.
Well, I got to school just like any other normal day. Didn't know, and during my prayer time, did God tell me anything that morning what I was going to face later on that afternoon. I was there to relieve the secretary because my principal had asked me hours before if I would relieve her. So I'm now in my office getting ready to relieve her, and I get this devastating call.
And the call was?
The devastating call was that I actually had to come up with $14,000 or less they was going to repossess my car.
Good grief. And you are a single mom at this point with 2 children working at the school, right?
Yes. So now I'm sitting in my office, bawling, crying. I had now shut the door in my office like, God, what am I going to do? Trying to get myself together.
So it's not like you're at an emotional high point in your life.
No.
You now go to relieve the person in the office, and what happened?
So now I'm sitting in the front office, and in comes Michael Hill, all dressed in black with an AK-47, ready to steal, kill, and destroy, and allow me to know as he comes in. First I'm thinking it's a joke, but then he says to me, this is not a joke, that we're all going to die today.
What went through your mind at that moment?
Terror, overwhelming, and God, what am I going to do now?
Wow. So what did God say to you after you asked him that question? What am I going to do now?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm just sitting there like, okay, God, if you have never talked to God before, now you're actually having a conversation. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to say it? What do I say? Because I know that every word that proceeds out of my mouth at that moment can be life or death. Not just for me. It's over 870 kids in the school. You have parents and over 100 and some staff members. So I know now that's a very important moment at that time.
In that place, there was someone else that was in the office. He let her go, went down the hall. You had another teacher who came at one point, and that man was allowed to leave. You are alone with this guy, alone, and trying to keep your cool. How did you remain calm, cool, and collected?
Actually communicating with God to ask him what to say, how to say it, and to make sure that I followed his instructions as he was actually using me to be his vessel that day.
Yeah. You followed also the directions of Michael Hill. I mean, there were a couple of times he told you to call someone or to make an announcement over the loud system to the school. And so you had 911 on the phone. He didn't realize that you had them on as long as you did, right?
No, what I did is he told me to hang up the telephone. So what I did was I actually put the phone on the other side so he couldn't see it. And I was actually communicating with Kendra, who was the 911 operator, to allow her to know what was he telling me to do, what was he saying, what was he doing at the moment, so that they can actually have ears and eyes also on the scene without him even knowing that they did.
Michael was in a lot of angst, and I was so touched by the fact that you could connect with him emotionally, that you felt compassion for him in the midst of that. Why do you think that happened?
Because I knew that pain. I had just had that pain several months myself when my husband of 33 years, a man that I had been with since I was 13 years old, had now told me that he was having an affair. We were no longer going to be together. So I knew that pain. I knew exactly what he felt when someone else came into my life and destroyed my family. So I knew how to have compassion and love for him because God sent people to have it for me.
And we should mention, not only are you a single mom at that stage of your life, but you also have a son with a very special son, but with some pretty serious needs.
Yes. My son is multiple disabled, and he also has Charcot-Marie tooth disease, where his nerves in his body are deteriorating, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So I'm now trying to raise my son, trying to make sure that I do what I need to do for my daughter, and also to make sure that I do what I need to do for work. So yes, it's an actual trying time in my life.
Yeah, I mean, and now you get the phone call that you're about to lose your house. But one of the things you have said is that you felt in some ways like God had been preparing you for this all your life. Even though God didn't give you a warning this was going to happen that day, you did have time with the Lord at the start of your day like you always do.
Yes, I know today that God actually prepared me for a purpose. And that was one reason why I wanted to write my book, is to allow people to know that I was an ordinary woman just like anybody else. I got up and spent time with God, but God prepared me for that purpose when I was younger, through everything that I went through the abandonment issues and everything. And so I was just at that time with my number being called for him to be able to use me.
Talk a little bit about how things actually finally concluded at the school, because you actually, when Michael said to you, I am going to die, this is the last day of my life, you were able to say to him, no, you're not. It's going to get better. That was because you'd seen God move in your own life. He actually laid down on the floor after that. Talk about that.
Yes. After that, he had tried to commit suicide in front of me, and I'm like, nope, you're not going to do that today. We're not having that. No, everybody's going to get out here alive today. And so he wound up putting his weapon down right before me. He wound up putting all the ammunitions out of his pocket, his book bag, water and everything, put it on the counter feet away from me, laid down prostrate before the Lord with his hands behind his back, and allowed the police officer to come and get him.
Unbelievable, unbelievable.
Only God.
A fully loaded AK-47, that school could have been destroyed that day. He had enough ammunition to have killed everyone in there.
Yes.
And God intervened. You know, a lot of times on our program, Antoinette, we have people who will ask, you know, how do I handle this in my life? Or how do I handle that in my life? The common thread I saw in your life as I read your book was no matter how much hardship you went to, you stayed tight with the Lord. You were in the Word, you met with God in the morning, you prayed at night. Was that what made the difference?
Yes. I know that with all of that, it made a big difference for me, because I have now started having a relationship with God. It was not just going to church on Sunday. It was not going to church on Wednesday, but it was actually now dedicating my life, giving God what I gave my husband for 23 years, and learning 33 years of my life, and learning how to, no matter what, love God just like I loved him, and even more.
So where are you at today? You're an author.
Yes.
What are you doing today?
Yes, I'm an author of Prepared for a Purpose. I am now going nationally and internationally speaking, allowing others to be prepared for their purpose.
Yes.
And doing all this on the Anderson Cooper, people from all over the world donated to my GoFundMe account. And we have now started a nonprofit, which is Kids on the Move for Success. And we just gave away our first scholarship a few weeks ago at the Trumpet Awards for a student to go to college. So it's a wonderful experience to be able to help others to realize that they are too prepared for a purpose, no matter what age you are.
And it's so much bigger than you could ask for or imagine, right?
Yes, when God said he's opened up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, you have room enough not to receive. It is truly a blessing.
He means it. Well, Antoinette's book called Prepared for a Purpose is available wherever books are sold. It's a fascinating story of how a woman with faith stood in the face of destruction and saved a school. Thank you. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.